I had a friend that we used to come during the summer and help me in ministry, and we'd known each other for a long time, and I'd say to him, hey man, where you want to eat? And he said, I don't know, cook. He said, as long as I'm with you, I could sit down on a curb and eat a bologna sandwich. He said, so I always thought of that as a pretty cool statement. My grandma was Cajun. Anybody in here Cajun? You guys? Yeah? Okay. This is not directed at you because my grandma was Cajun. We had some mystery meals that happened over at Grandma's house. I don't know. I'm not sure what the meat was. They say Cajuns will eat anything. Have you heard that? Cajuns will eat anything. If Adam and Eve had been Cajuns, we would not be in the fix we're in. They would have snatched that snake out of the tree, fried it up, and ate it. We would have been set. But yeah, so we're not serving any mystery meat here, but would like to take a little time to unravel a little mystery that I think kind of stays in the forefront of all of our minds, what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And that's, we have a unique perspective on this, and we're not just wasting time here. We're not just trying to invent something different to do, but sincerely feel like God's given us something that releases people who just want some purpose to the reason that they're living, and it comes out of the life of Jesus. So unraveling this, what should I be doing with my life? If we say we're a Christian, what does that mean to live that out? And then also kind of tied to that is, what's the purpose of the church in the modern age? When we went through COVID recently, it was kind of like a shot over the bow for the church. Everything changed. I mean, like overnight, people didn't meet at church. America did not know what to do. The church world was caught flat-footed. They didn't know what to do. And so people are scrambling to go online. They're trying to, some people already had an online presence. Some people didn't. They didn't know what to do. Thank God for Zoom. I don't know if Jesus invented that or not, but everybody was trying to find their way, right? So I think we see in that, it was kind of like a microcosm. It was a shot over the bow for what is the purpose of the church? What are we supposed to be doing as a church? So these things stay on my mind. What am I supposed to be doing with my life? And maybe some of you here in the room have imagined it, well, I missed my purpose, or I haven't discovered it, or I've settled on something lesser for my life because, it's too hard to think that far, or somehow you've failed and you're just slogging along mindlessly in a rut that you've created for yourself, and that's just what life is now. You can even get to my age and start looking at the horizon a little bit and kind of give up, just think, I'm just going to coast my way in and dispense with living any thoughts out of continued meaning. So maybe you're actively searching but frustrated. Maybe you just need some assurances. Maybe you've just, this is new for you. But I feel like that when we get done with this presentation today, that we're going to clear away a little bit of the fog and the cloud around the mystery of what is life purpose. And I've been fascinated with this my entire life. I've been fascinated with the whole purpose of the church. If I'm on a plane and somebody asks me, what do you do for a living? The first thing I don't say is I'm a pastor. I know it's weird for me, somebody in my position in so many years being a pastor. But I think it short circuits conversations sometimes because people start acting different. They all put their church face on, or they start something. I don't know. They have a paradigm and a filter they got to think through. So sometimes I just talk about business and some other things because I'm a little reluctant to align myself sometimes with everything that everybody's paradigms of what the church is and what Christianity is. I want to have a conversation about life and not just about the institution of the church, because people's filters often, go around the whole institution of the church. Jesus created a movement. He created an ideology, not an institution. He didn't set up an institution. He didn't have a board. He didn't have, layers and structures and anything like that. He just had 12 guys in a relationship and an ideology. And the movement was driven and fueled by a thought process, something that people owned in their heart. And so the church has got to go back to that, right? That we own who we are and what we do and the ideologies that we have. Anyway, I've been on a constant search for the church and for myself personally in this whole thought process. And in the midst of it, I stumbled on something numbers of years ago that I now call the Jesus life model. And In a few weeks, we're going to do the Open Up Your World Conference. There's a little flyer on it there on the table, and we're going to go into this more in depth. 3 powerful sessions that I think are going to be life-changing. But I want to encapsulate the ideas here because they come primarily out of the book of John, the disciple John that wrote a gospel, the story of Jesus. And in that story, toward the end of the book of John, he shares a prayer that Jesus prayed. And I don't know why in all my Christian existence I never dropped down on this prayer and really looked at it. When you think about the Lord's Prayer, when you think about the Lord praying, what do you think about? The Lord's Prayer. And some of us could stumble our way through it, right? Our Father which art in heaven, you could probably do it. If you're Catholic, you're in. You already know it, for sure. But you could do the Lord's Prayer. But this prayer was really different. It's a whole chapter. And don't you think it would be educative to see what Jesus was concerned about and what he prayed to the Father about? Like if he's praying this, then maybe we should be praying it, or maybe this is what we should be concerned with, right? And it's interesting because he starts out this prayer, and it's at the close of his life. This is at the very end of his ministry, right before the cross. He starts this prayer at the close of his life, and he starts it out by saying, Father, I glorified your name on earth. Fancy way of saying, I tried to make you look good. I tried to do it the way that would give you honor. Right? And then he says 3 things, and these are 3 things that the Jesus model come out of. Let's look at those. The work you gave me. Look, it's all 3 phrases are you gave me. Right? Now I want you to stop for a second and think, not only did Jesus have this given to him, but you had it given to you. All right? But he said this, I'm giving an accountability for my life. I'm standing at the close of my life and I'm saying, the work you gave me, I finished. So God gave us work. All right? I'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. The people you gave me, I kept. This is cool. The words you gave me, I delivered. This encapsulates the idea of the Jesus life model. The work, the people, the words, all of which God gave us. I finished these, I kept the people, I delivered the words, right? So the Jesus life model from John 17, we use this phrase around here, serve, seek, share, just to make it easier to roll off the tongue. But think about this. What is your work? Now I'm not talking about your career that you went to college for. I'm talking about everything you do when you crack your eyes open in the morning is work. One of my niece's husband said he's going to get home back to Houston tonight to do the lawn. What a responsible guy. And it's part of our work, right? It's not, you don't get paid for it, but it's a part of your work. Everything you do is work. You wake up, you work on, making yourself presentation ready. You work on your house. You do laundry. You get your kids out the door. You gas up your car. You're working. Every waking moment is work. And so it's all work. The Bible says, whatever your hand finds to do it with all of your might. So it's not just showing up at work and doing a good job because you're going to get a check on Friday. It's my whole life representation is a service to the world. Knowing your gifts, knowing your personality traits, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, knowing how you fit into the workplace, knowing how you fit into your family and what contribution you add. All of that is work and all of it is important. Your work glorifies God. God gave man 6 days to work and 1 day to rest. That means over 85% of your life is work. You ever notice that? Anybody tired, exhausted? No, I'm just talking about it. 85% of your life is work. So service, right? This is part of our gift. People think, well, what do I do at church? And that's my gift. No, all of your work is a gift to life and the people around you, right? So this is part of it. And Jesus said, the work you gave me, I finished. So think about it this way. Just make things better. Every atmosphere you walk in, invest. Make things better. Put your hand to it. Don't be lazy. Don't be disengaged. Don't think you don't matter, right? Insert yourself and work. So serving, make things better. And then the second there is seek, make friends. The people you gave me, I kept. So the people we come in contact with, there are no throwaway people. God has people in your life for a reason, and you interact with people. You meet people at work. Everywhere you go, every meeting is a God thing. Don't dismiss anyone. Don't set anyone aside. every situation that you run into with people is an investment. The people you gave me, I kept. And this is especially important about loyalties and friendships and family and how you treat family and what you do to keep your family together and the investment you make. Jesus was able to say, I gave my very best, and the people you gave me, I kept. Now, there was a little caveat there, right? Because there's Judas. But he tried, right? He gave everything he could. He still called him a friend in the garden while he was kissing him and betraying him, right? So the people you gave me, I kept. So make friends, and then make your words count. The words you gave me, I delivered. Make your words count. Your words, not just Bible words, not just memory verses, but all the words that come out of your mouth. How many of you can remember something that somebody told you as a child that was negative and you still can remember it today? A teacher, a parent, somebody. Yeah? I mean, you could still, like in your mind, you're like, whoa, I can still remember that person. Still don't like them. Don't like what they said. And it affects you. All right, words count. Words matter. All words. The way that we discipline ourselves to make our words count. So this embodies the essence of what it means to make a life investment. There's a lot of details about what kind of job, where should I live, who should I marry, how should I raise my kids. There's a lot of things to learn. There's a lot of aspects and addendums and appendages to all of this. But I think that's the essence of our investment, whatever setting that we're in. I think people that mix up their relationship with God with their relationship with the church and a church institution. And frankly, I think there's a whole lot of the world, and probably if you're in the room, you're not one of them, but that are turned off by church. Have you met somebody, had a conversation with somebody who's a little turned off by church? I mean, I certainly have those conversations a lot. I don't think they're turned off by God so much, but somehow their paradigm of church is not, maybe our paradigm. And when Jesus came into the world, I mean, he got himself killed, y'all. He got himself killed because he worked outside of the paradigms. He worked outside of the typical institutions. He disrupted the powers that were inside of spiritual realms. He changed everything. He sat down with Nicodemus in John chapter 3 and he said, Nicodemus, you're going to have to be born again. And we go, oh, that's about salvation. No, that whole chapter is about the paradigm shifting away from the Jewish template for faith and moving into a different kind of world. Jesus said the Spirit's going to go wherever it wants. It's going to be like the wind. It's not going to be here or there. He told the disciples, don't look at the temple. The stones aren't even going to be on top of one another. The kingdom is within you. So Nicodemus, you got to go back into your mother's womb and be born again, because everything that is your world now is going to change later, because all of the relationship with God is going to be different. He was dismantling all of that. And Nicodemus, that conversation in John chapter 3, very educative and important, because that is the, verbalizing all of that breakup, right? The institution of the church is not meant to carry the full weight of the message of Jesus. And I think that's why the institutional platform is just not strong enough to bear the weight and the vision of Jesus. We cannot do church well enough to carry the gospel the way it was meant to be carried. I'm just telling you, folks, you could fill up every building that could hold seats in the city of Dallas, and you're not going to fit everybody if they all wanted to come to church this Sunday. They're not going to fit in the buildings. You can't build enough real estate. You can't build it nice enough to gather everybody that needs to be affected by God. And so Jesus' vision was way bigger than buildings and real estate. It was about relationships. And so he pulled back from the Jewish temple and he said, hey, the Spirit of God's going to go wherever. I'm going to pour out my Spirit upon all flesh, not just Jewish flesh, not just churchy flesh, not just institution flesh, not just people who understand church culture. I'm pouring it out on all flesh. People can find God in the back bedroom while they're crying over a marriage that got broken up or something that went wrong in their life, and God is right there. He didn't need anybody from a church to go get them. Bring them to church. Now, this sounds like a bad message for a pastor to preach. I realize, So what is the value of the institution? We're a family. Families are institutions. You say, oh, they act like they're family. You can tell they're family cultures because they raise up kids that come out with that culture. And that's cool, right? We teach our kids to do well. And we teach them to behave, and we teach them what it means to live in society. And so institutions, this is what we do. Families are institutions. But look, guys, what happens if the church gets all dismantled? What happens if we have the USSR all over again in America? And they shut down religion, shut down religious institutions and broadcasts and magazines and buildings and all the real estate, and they say, nope, no more of that. Kibosh. Would the gospel get dismantled? Absolutely not. It would not, because the irreducible minimum for the gospel is the table. That's why we're saying come to the table. It's about relationships. The gospel is carried on the wings of relationships. And so the institution is not an encumbrance to that. It can augment it. And it is a blessing, just like your family is a blessing. But it isn't intended to drive it. And so the church has this weight on it that is not meant. That's not something Jesus mandated. The church feels this weight, right? That's not really the weight that Jesus mandated to carry on the institution of the church and do it well enough that people will come. That's not the gospel. Jesus didn't say everybody come. He said, y'all go. Y'all go. And so Jesus did that. He turned the world upside down, and he was outside of the religious institution. Oh, I hope we get this. He turned the world upside down, and here's how he did it. He was either on the way to a meal, at a meal, or leaving a meal. He was like a party animal. They said, Jesus, it said in Matthew, they said the Son of Man came eating and drinking. They said this as a dig. This wasn't like, hey, good job, you came eating and drinking. No, they said, that's all he does is eat and drink. In fact, they went on to kind of expand on it and say it's worse than that. They try to make it sound worse. It's like when you get in an argument with somebody and you use hyperbole and you go a little too far. He's a glutton and a drunkard. Well, I don't think so. But that's what they wanted to put him in that category. Oh, and he's hanging out with tax collectors and sinners. Bad guys. People you shouldn't be hanging with. The bad crowd. And he turned the world upside down, outside of the institution, inside of relationships, at the table. And so, hey, if Jesus can be effective with all of that, and if the table is the irreducible minimum for the gospel, why shouldn't we just go back to the table now? Why should we not have this culture in our hearts? Thank God we have a church. Thank God we're going to lift up our family. This is going to be as excellent a family as we can make it. But we're not going to depend upon this family and the institution of how we do church to reach the world with the gospel. That has to happen by us going out into the world with the Jesus life model. Some people who need us are not coming to church. I'm getting ahead of my notes. I do that all the time. I'm sorry. Here's a few things to consider. How about we try that slide? The people who need us most may never come to church. May never, not eventually. I'm talking about they may never. So what, do you just write them off? They don't get it? They don't get to any Jesus? No. Serve, seek, share, Work for them, serve them, build relationships with them, give them good words, right? You're giving them the gospel. So the people that may need us the most, they may never come to church. Love is the seed of the gospel. The miracle is in the seed. Many people in the church world do planting. They look at somebody that they think is a likely candidate and they plant good stuff with them. But the gospel is about sowing, and so you broadcast. You sow indiscriminately. You don't just serve people that you think will serve you. You don't just make friends with people that you like and you think you're going to get some return. You don't just give good words to the people that you care for and and avoid the other ones. No, you give it to everybody the same because love is the seed of the gospel. We're not saving anyone, right? 3,000 people were added to the church, and the Bible says and the Lord added to the church. The Lord added to the church such as should be saved. What did the people do? Man, they loved on them. They gave the gospel in this way. They broadcast their life out into everybody they met without discrimination. And the miracle is in the seed. Farmers don't have to be smart. Dumb people can plant. You'll have to be smart. And, and think about, it's not really very smart farming. Think about that parable. Why would he throw it under the bush? Why did he throw it on the hard pan? Why throw it where the rocks were? That doesn't seem very smart. But God didn't call us to be smart. He just called us to broadcast, y'all. Just love and just stupidly love, like you think they deserve it or don't deserve it. That's not what God gave us the privilege to think. Just throw it everywhere. And if it comes up and it gets stolen, or if it comes up and it gets burnt, or if it comes up and it doesn't work, you don't know, or if it lands in good ground, it's all the same to you, because your job is just to love and to carry. Because the seed, the miracle is not in your sowing. The miracle is not in the sowing. The miracle is in the seed. When you love like God loves, it gets down in people's hearts, and they know the difference between something that's authentic and real and it's God-filled, and something happens in their heart. You never know. So love is the seed of the gospel. The miracle's in the seed. Seed sowing is the call of believers. It's an end within itself. It's seed sowing, not seed planting. That's why we say here at church, loving more people from more places, and not just like foreign and ethnic places. I mean, certainly that's part of it. But loving more people from more places. They're from all walks of life, all socioeconomic statuses and histories and all kinds of things. And we don't discriminate about who we love. We just loving more people from more places, because that is the call of the gospel. Again, the table is the irreducible minimum for gospel proclamation. So y'all get ready to preach to one another. We're going to do that here in a minute now. Your life impact then happens, your life impact and the impact for the gospel happens in the regular flow of life. It's not, being a Christian isn't institutionally centric, it is relationally centric. And so we wanted to set up this meal today as kind of a symbol, so that's just like tattooed in your brain, that the way to share the gospel is to bring people to our table, over coffee at the coffee shop, out at a restaurant, in our homes, in their homes, anywhere that you share a relationship and share a table. You're going to find that God is there. It's in the regular flow of life. And it's not your role at church that does this. It's your role as the church that does it. I thought it was pretty cool to watch the Masters golf tournament this year in Augusta. And Scotty Scheffler, had the lead early on and kind of blew away the field and did so great. And then, as it got kind of like towards Saturday and Sunday, when the tournament was kind of funneling down to the last few, the commentators would say stuff about he and his caddy. And he and his caddy had a Bible study together, and that they were involved in, the PGA has some group that meets or something like that, and that's where that they made their connection and how they got together as player and caddy. And then they told some stories about their family through all of that. And of course, when he put on the green jacket and they interviewed him, he went on to say a few things. And I thought, this is what I'm talking about, being an ambassador for God, just in the flow of life. So I want to play this little clip of Scotty Scheffler for a second.
It goes back to my faith. The reason why I play golf is because, I'm trying to glorify God and, all that He's done in my life. And so for me, my identity isn't a golf score. Like Mary told me this morning, she says, if you win this golf tournament today, if you lose this golf tournament by 10 shots, if you never win another golf tournament again, she goes, I'm still going to love you. You're still going to be the same person. Jesus loves you. And nothing changes. And all I'm trying to do is glorify God. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm in this position. And so for me, it's not about a golf score. Every day when we go out there, Meredith always prays for peace, because that's what I want to feel when I'm out there on the golf course. I want to feel peace and have fun and just feel His presence. And so that's her prayer every day. That's my prayer, and I really felt that.
I went golfing yesterday. I did not feel the presence of God. It's just a bad day, but to put on that green jacket, y'all, to put on that green jacket is the premium, that is the mountaintop, that is the peak of all things in golf. It makes me want to cry because here's a man who, he's not doing this to prove anything, but is part of his DNA to say what he said. Because that's how he lives, right? And just think of the impact of that guy's life. How many people are impacted by him just saying what he said? How many doors does that open up? I mean, how many people come around him? And the work that he does with the rest of his life is so much more important than golf, and he knows that. And let me tell you, that's the same for every one of us. People need us. Don't make it always about inviting people to church. This just sounds like stupid for a pastor to say, but I'm just saying. It's the truth because we're just loving people. Let the whole thing happen organically. The Lord is the one that's doing the saving. The Lord is the one that's doing the work in people's hearts. And I think there's people here in the room, and we've done this with our hearts wide open because we feel like God is going to talk to everybody in this room in both of our sessions today. I'm glad some of you came at 9. Thank you. I didn't want to be ever doing this by myself. But we believe that God's going to speak to you. And I believe that the Lord, if He was just sitting across from the table from you right now, He'd want to tell you some stuff. Revelation says, those who I love, I rebuke and discipline, so be earnest and repent. Just change your mind, try something different. Here I am, I stand at the door and knock. And listen, when God gets done knocking, what He does. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I'll come in and eat with them, sit at the table. And they with me. Wow, this is the resurrected Christ still wanting to sit down and eat with people. To the one who's victorious, I'll give the right to sit with me on a throne. He wants to take us out of our paupery and bring us to the palace. Put us on a throne and make something, frame a wonderful story out of our work.